Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Voodoo Sports Show. I will be recapping sports this week and giving you a bit of an update on what the big news about sports is this week. Today is Monday, March 24th, 2025. I just finished recording my Monday Night Raw recap the Monday Night Raw today, which is a really fun episode, so be sure to watch that. But in today's episode, I have three main things on my agenda. Recapping March Madness. I'm not that entertaining, it is honestly been what's happened thus far, as well as predicting what's going to happen in this week's 16 matchups. Talking about the Formula One race this weekend, we just had the Chinese Grand Prix. It was not that fun staying up until 4:40 in the morning, but we did. And we have a few things to talk about that, such as three drivers getting disqualified and Liam Lawson be getting replaced just after two races this season. We will see that, and last but not least, baseball is back, baby. Thursday, we have the opening day of the season 4 Major League Baseball, so we will go over those matchups, as well as talk about what some of my predictions are for baseball this season. So first of all, let's talk about March Madness. It has not been as entertaining as some of us would have liked, but there have still been some really fun games to watch. We'll go over the Sweet 16 and talk about some other parts. First of all, North Carolina. What the hell, man? I had y'all going a bit further than that, but North Carolina, really rough game for them. Just proper ass beating as we continue to look down the list of games we've had thus far. Akron, I had Akron. Bad choice. Vanderbilt led their game for a lot, and they ended up selling it in the last few minutes. Alabama, I thought Alabama would be on fraud watch. Turns out they weren't. They came back and had a great showing against St. Mary's. And then Houston looks like a really, really good team. After Gonzaga's game against Georgia, we all thought that Gonzaga could potentially be the spoilers for the tournament. Didn't end up being the case. On this side of the bracket, not Florida, Maryland versus Colorado State. That game was cinema. Walk-off buzzer beater for the Maryland Terrapins. Drake's miracle run comes to an end. Arkansas, they could potentially be the Cinderella team to look out for this year. So other than that, I wish I could talk to you more about this, but I just simply can't, because there have just been no upsets this tournament. This is the first time since 2007 a 13 through 16 seeded team did not make it to the Sweet 16 of the tournament, and it's honestly sad. But what do you expect? It's been easier to predict for bracket-wise this year. So going over the matchups, gonna start the top half of the bracket. We have 4 games up here, and then 4 games at the bottom. I'll start at the top, go left, right, and work down from there. First matchup, Auburn versus Michigan. Michigan, really good showing against Texas A&M, who had them on the brinks a little bit, and especially a great recovery game after the really close win against UC San Diego. But Michigan has looked like a really solid team to beat, and obviously Auburn. Auburn has been absolutely incredible. It dates back to regular season, but Auburn, in my opinion, goes to the Final Four. I got Auburn winning this game, but it's going to be a really close one because that Michigan team is really good. Duke versus Arizona. Duke has looked like the team to beat this tournament. Cooper Flagg has been an absolutely incredible player for the Blue Devils. In Arizona, I believe Caleb Love's team. Caleb Love, he's been as good as advertised. A lot of great play from Caleb Love. This is going to be a really fun matchup. I'm expecting maybe 90 points from either team. Call me crazy, but that's just what I see. At least looking over this matchup, I do think Duke looks like an NBA team. Duke is a squad that could beat a lot of NBA teams right now. So I'm going to go with the Blue Devils. They march on to the Elite Eight. Michigan State versus Ole Miss. I'm going to keep it real simple for you. NIL money will prevail. Just look at football. Michigan State wins. BYU versus Alabama. BYU pulled off a major spoiler against Wisconsin. A lot of people at Wisconsin going far in the tournament. They play Alabama. Alabama is also a really good team. They have been really fun to watch, and despite the fact they were almost on upset watch against Robert Morris, they pulled it off and had a really good showing against St. Mary's. So this is going to be a really fun matchup. It's going to come down to the wire, but at the end of the day, you got to choose an upset somewhere. And I believe the BYU Cougars upset Alabama, and they will go to the Elite Eight. Florida versus Maryland. Florida, man. What's not to say about the Gators, who look like one of the strongest teams in college basketball, and further prove how strong the SEC has been. Maryland came off a really close one against Colorado State, but pulled it off. So what I like about Maryland, good teams figure out how to beat their opponent, and Maryland found a way to beat Colorado State. They're not beating Florida. SEC, way too strong. Give me the Florida Gators to take down Maryland Terrapins. Houston versus Purdue. Purdue trying to get back to the championship game and avenge their loss from last season. They've looked really solid this tournament, handling their opponents with ease so far. Houston had a close one against Gonzaga, but they have looked very, very talented all around the court. So this is going to be a fun game. But in my opinion, Purdue is a much stronger program than Houston is, and Houston's going to give it their all. But I'm going to go with Purdue to advance to the Elite Eight, taking down the Houston Cougars. Moving on, Texas Tech and Arkansas. I'm going to keep this one pretty short as well. Give me Arkansas. Give me the Razorbacks. They're a strong team. They look like a really tough team to beat, and I believe the Arkansas Razorbacks take down the Red Raiders and advance to the Elite Eight to make it an SEC matchup between Florida and Arkansas and the Elite Eight. Kentucky versus Tennessee. What is there not to say about Tennessee? This is a Tennessee team that can do it all. They can defend, they can shoot, they can score. Tennessee has been incredible and a very fun team to watch this tournament, and so has Kentucky. Not a lot of close games from Kentucky. Kentucky has been sure to take care of their opponents very quickly and very easily. This is going to be a fun matchup. Two SEC teams, two really strong SEC teams. At the end of the day, Tennessee's momentum and Tennessee's strength is just way too good, in my opinion, right now. I'm going to go with the Volunteers to advance to the Elite Eight. As we have thus far, my Final Four, I had UCLA winning it all for some reason. Right now, my Final Four prediction, I'm going to go Michigan State, Arkansas, Duke, and Tennessee. Those are my Final Four teams, and as of right now, I predict Michigan State will finally win a national championship in basketball, bring another major championship trophy, national championship trophy, to the Big Ten, building on Ohio State, bringing the national championship to the Big Ten in football. That's what we have for basketball this far in F1. Interesting race this weekend for Formula One. Not too much action in Shanghai, but Oscar Piastri pulls off the win. It was on a McLaren 1-2. Very close to not being a McLaren 1-2 with Lando's issues at the end of the race, but the big part about that, 3 drivers were disqualified from the race after coming in underweight. But the big news, Ferrari continues to struggle over the last few years with Hamilton and Ferrari. Hamilton and Charles Leclerc coming in underweight. Leclerc coming in weight, and then access where the skid block on Hamilton's car that causes Lewis Hamilton to be in breach of technical regulations, and therefore both Ferrari drivers, after a pretty decent showing from the Scuderia Ferrari, now down the drain as Ferrari now finds themselves in a position where they go a full weekend without scoring a single point. Lewis Hamilton, in my opinion, will forever regret leaving Mercedes. It was a really bad decision, and he's learning all about the overall negligence from Ferrari. Who's to say that Leclerc's issue wasn't caused by the fact that he only took one pit stop and the fact that he broke his front wing in the beginning of the race? Who's to say that that's not the issue? Hamilton's issue is a little bit more different, but at the end of the day, these were two very avoidable issues for Ferrari. They neglected it, and now both their drivers just got DQ'd. Now, they're having to scramble to find points. Not a good weekend for Ferrari. But either way, McLaren still looks like they're the team to beat. It was a great showing from Haas, by the way, with Esteban Ocon now finishing 5th and Audley Behrman finishing 8th. Great showing from Team Haas and a lot of pickup in points for them. McLaren still looks really solid, and the Drivers' Championship is still really close. Lando Norris is up by, I believe, 8 points on Max Verstappen right now. I'll have to check that for sure later, but nonetheless, this is looking like it's going to be a very, very fun season for Formula One. A lot more competitive than years past. Continuing with Formula One, a lot of talk in Formula One is about Max Verstappen's success, and will he be able to win the 5th straight championship, which no Red Bull driver has ever done. Vettel came close, but he wasn't able to do so. But when it comes to a driver winning the championship, he cannot win the championship without his teammate. We saw in 2021 how much Sergio Perez played the big role in getting Max Verstappen to the top and helping Verstappen win that championship. You can't win a championship if your second driver is nowhere to be found at the front. And that's exactly the issue that Red Bull has with Liam Lawson right now. There's a lot of talk about why Liam's struggling. It could just be they gave him the ride too soon. It could be just this Red Bull car is not that good and it was only built for Max Verstappen to succeed. But nonetheless, Liam Lawson's struggles have been bad. And now we've only completed 2 race weekends. But Red Bull, with Japan looming, has considered swapping Liam Lawson with Yuki Tsunoda. Yuki has been a veteran of the sport. We saw last year, Yuki Tsunoda was one of the most consistent drivers on the grid last season, getting close to the top 10 or finishing in the top 10 most of the races. And I feel like he deserved to see it, especially after Australia. I wonder if they made the wrong move, giving the seat to Liam Lawson over Yuki Tsunoda, and now we saw it again last week. While it wasn't the greatest weekend for RB and Yuki didn't get the finish he quite wanted, he still looked a lot faster than Liam Lawson. Liam has just looked completely overmatched in that Red Bull, and a lot of people have been wondering, was Sergio Perez really the problem? I mean, he's a veteran. He knows how to drive a car, and he knows how to drive one fast. And now Sergio's gone, you have Liam Lawson, and he just looks completely outmatched in the second Red Bull car right now. And now Red Bull is actually considering that driver swap. Get Yuki Tsunoda that chance in the Red Bull team and get him close back to the top to see how he'll do. And especially with Japan this weekend, could you imagine right before the Japanese Grand Prix, Red Bull brings the Japanese-born Yuki Tsunoda to that Red Bull seat to race for one of the premier teams in Formula One in his home country? That's advertising at its finest, but a massive opportunity for Yuki Tsunoda if he does end up getting that Red Bull seat as I look over this ESPN article. But yeah, Liam Lawson, he needs help. And we could absolutely see the potential for Lawson being swapped with Yuki Tsunoda as Japanese Grand Prix looms in the distance. That's my segment on Formula One. Moving on to our last segment of the day, opening day, Thursday, March 27th. We are finally here, baby. Baseball season is about to kick off, and I cannot wait for what should be a really fun baseball season as the Dodgers try to defend their throne. Here are the matchups you'll see it. 305 Brewers vs. Yankees, 307 Orioles vs. Blue Jays, 405 Red Sox Rangers, and Phillies vs. Nationals, 410. A lot of games kicking off at 410. Guardians Royals will be a very fun matchup. We almost saw them in the NLDS last season, but the Tigers ended up beating the Royals. Mets vs. Astros is going to be fun. Juan Soto returning to the stadium he won the World Series in. Giants vs. Reds. Will we be able to see Hunter Green get off to a good start for the Reds? Will we see Ellie De La Cruz have the MVP season? A lot of people are hyping him up to contend for in the series I think we need to watch this weekend. The first of a 4-game set between the Atlanta Braves and the San Diego Padres. Ronald Acuna Jr. will be back in the lineup for the Braves after tearing his ACL last season. San Diego, they looked phenomenal last season. A really good rebound year after a lot of people questioned if they would be able to compete without Juan Soto. They definitely can. Jackson Merrill broke out with a great rookie season. He'll be looking to build on that. The Padres will be looking to go back to the NLDS for another matchup of fate against the Dodgers. We'll see if they can get back there, and if this time they can back on top. Then arguably the two worst franchises in baseball, an absolute dumpster fire matchup between the Angels and the White Sox. The team throwing away Mike Trout's career and the worst team ever assembled on paper. They match up in Chicago. That'll be a fun one. Continuing to look down. Tigers vs. Dodgers. I feel like that will low-key be a really fun series. The Cy Young winner, the Tigers team who broke out last season and exceeded all expectations to get to the NLDS and nearly win the whole thing. They'll be going to the Dodgers. Dodgers, a lot of hype around them right now. Most expensive team in baseball. And their favorite word of that fan base, defer. That'll be a very fun matchup. At the end of the day, before we get there, two teams that will be in that playoff conversation, the Cubs and the Diamondbacks. Diamondbacks just missed the playoffs last season, although they were red hot. Corbin Carroll will be looking to bounce back from a bit of a sophomore slump. And the Chicago Cubs lost Bellinger over the offseason, but they replaced him with Kyle Tucker, a massive upgrade for them. Be interesting to see him in his first game as a Cub, as the Chicago Cubs look to contend for the playoffs this season in the last game of the day. At 10:10, the now Las Vegas Athletics, never going to get used to that, playing the Seattle Mariners, and that will be opening day for Major League Baseball, but a lot of interesting matchups on opening day. A lot of fun ones. This Braves vs. Padres series. These two teams met in the NLDS, no, the wild card game, sorry, in the wild card series last year, and the Padres got the better end of the Braves. We'll see if who gets the better end of this matchup with Ronald Acuna back in the lineup for the Atlanta Braves. That's opening day for baseball. This is going to look trippy, but bear with me. And now, looking over baseball, this one last segment, predictions for Major League Baseball this season. As we look over every division really quick. 1 second. Right, so for this one, I will look over every division, give you what I think the outcome of the division is going to be this year, who we can see win the divisions, and most importantly, what I think some of the awards are going to be this season, at least for MVP and Cy Young for every division. And we'll go from there. So you started off the American League East, Yankees, Red Sox, Blue Jays, Rays, and Orioles. That's going to be a very fun division. Starting in fifth, I'm going to have to go with the Tampa Bay Rays. Still a really young team, waiting for some of their better parts to break out, but just not as much man talent as some of the other teams. Same thing for the Blue Jays. They're a really good team. I feel like Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is going to have another fantastic year, but just not as much talent. This is a team that I think is going to finish third place, and that is the Boston Red Sox. Jarren Duran looks really good last season long. Rafael Devers, he's looking at a really strong season. They brought in a lot of guys that I feel like could have bounce back years in Boston. Walker Buehler was a great acquisition. I think Buehler's going to be a great year. But I got the Red Sox finishing third. And then my boldest prediction of them all, Yankees second, and I got the Baltimore Orioles winning the American League East. I feel like the Orioles are going to have a breakout season, and the Yankees are going to have a really hard time recovering from that loss of Juan Soto over the offseason, with Soto going to their crosstown rival in the Mets. That's the American League East. American League Central, Guardians are going to win it. Royals second, Twins third, Tigers fourth, and then White Sox, obviously. It's the White Sox. The fuck are they going to do? That's my prediction for the American League Central. I feel like the Guardians still the best team on paper. Royals are going to compete with them hard. Bobby Witt's continue to break out. Actually, no, I'm going to swap third and fourth. Tigers are going to finish third. It's going to be very, very close. Don't get me wrong. I think the AL Central is going to be very strong this year and very competitive. But I feel like the Tigers get a slight advantage in third place. The Royals will beat them out for second. The Twins fell apart last season. They proved that they cannot hang with the big boys, and that's going to continue to be the way this season. But let's be honest, it doesn't matter how bad the Twins are going to be. They're not going to be worse than the White Sox. And to finish off the American League West, Rangers recover. They win the American League West this season with the Mariners coming in second, Seattle going back to the playoffs. Astros are going to be third. Just feel like this Astros team going into the season, it's not as strong as years past. They lost a lot of key pieces of the offseason, Kyle Tucker being one of them. They're still a strong team, but they're just not going to be as competitive, giving the Astros finish third and miss the playoffs. In fourth place is the Angels, or Mike Trout and friends. Give me Angels finishing fourth. And then I'm going to go with the Athletics, finishing fifth once again in the American League West. It's going to be really close for fourth and fifth, but at the end of the day, I feel like Athletics on paper are a little bit worse than the Angels, purely because of Mike Trout. Moving on to the National League, starting off in the National League East, that's going to be, oh boy, that's going to be a really fun division this season. A lot of talent coming back. It's really going to be the three teams out front, so I'm going to go the back end of it. So the start, Marlins are going to finish last. It's obvious why. Just no talent on that team at all. Maybe Alcantara comes back in a solid year, but just don't see much going from the Marlins. Nationals finished fourth. I saw a lot of great things from the Nationals last season, as well as a lot of their future superstars starting to develop. Abrams looks solid. James Woods here. Dylan Cruz got called up. They're going to keep developing, and they're going to keep getting better, but they're just not strong enough yet to compete with the big boys of that division, and of course, the big boys of that division. It's going to be close. I feel like all three of these teams are going to make the playoffs and contend for the playoffs. But as far as their seeding goes, I'm going to go the Phillies third. They're a very strong team. Bryce Harper's going to have another great season. Maybe we see Kyle Schwarber continue to be the dominant hitter. But I just personally do not think, and again, I could be wrong, this is a very strong division. I could absolutely be wrong about these. And while I haven't finished in this order, it's not going to be by much. But I feel like Phillies are going to finish third. And then, talk about that. I'm going to go with the Braves finishing second. Ronald Acuna Jr. is back from injury. A lot of their pieces from last season are coming back and are healthy again. They have a really strong pitching staff with Strider coming back. But I feel like the New York Mets finish first with all that hype around them, bringing in Soto, Lindor really coming back to form with how he played in the postseason last year. Pete Alonso is going to be coming back. I hope to see them bring back JD Martinez. Their pitching has always been really solid. Kodai Senga showed a lot of great things last year. And maybe Edwin Diaz can recover from the bit of a down year he had last year in the regular season. He's looked really strong in the playoffs, and I expect him to build off that momentum in the regular season. The NL Central, a lot of young teams looking to break out and some teams on the decline. I do feel like this could be another division in the National League where we see three teams contend for the playoffs and maybe even three teams make the playoffs. Who knows? But the order for the National League Central, I'm going to go Cardinals last. Cardinals losing Paul Goldschmidt's a big one. Even if Paul Goldschmidt started regressing last season, he's still Paul Goldschmidt, and that's a major loss. For the Cardinals, so many players are just on the wrong side of 30, and they just don't have the depth right now that they have in seasons past. I'm going to go with the Cardinals. Finishing fifth and fourth, I'm going to go with the bull take and say the Brewers. Adames was a bigger loss than you think. I feel like the hype around the Brewers is just not that strong right now, and I've seen them play in seasons past. They could absolutely prove me wrong, but just Yelich is continuing the decline, and I just do not see the Brewers being that competitive. And so the Brewers will finish fourth. Third place, I'm going to go with the Pirates. We saw so many pieces of this Pirates lineup get called up and start breaking out last season. Brian Reynolds looks solid, obviously. Paul Skeens, a lot of hype around him. He's going to bring a lot of wins to the Pirates last season. The Pirates overall, they've always been competitive, especially last season, but they just didn't have the momentum. I feel like this season they do. I think David Bednar figures it out and gets his momentum back going. But I just don't see the Pirates finishing higher than third, but the Pirates are going to have a really good year, don't get me wrong. And the matchup for the win will be between the Reds and the Cubs, in my opinion. The Cubs did not get off to a strong start with the Tokyo Series starting off the season 0-2, but long way to go. 162 games, plenty of time for the Cubs to turn it around. And a lot of heat around the Reds right now. We could absolutely see the Reds have a strong season. But as far as the division goes, while I do think both of these teams do make the playoffs or at least get really close, on paper right now, I'm going to go with the Reds second. I just feel like it's the Cubs' time right now. The Cubs are a very strong team. I feel like they could absolutely split the season series. They always do, or at least come really close to it. It's been competitive that way. But at the end of the day, the Reds are a much younger team and don't really have the same experience the Cubs do. Bringing in Kyle Tucker for the Cubs was huge, and so I feel like that's going to be the difference maker. The Chicago Cubs won the NL Central, but the Reds give them a hell of a run for their money, and I think we see both those teams make the playoffs. As far as the National League West goes, I feel like we kind of have a lot of it kind of figured out already. Most likely, the Dodgers are going to win. It's basically the same lineup from last year, and they dominated everyone on their way to a World Series ring. Dodgers win, Padres second, Diamondbacks third. Padres, I just feel like on paper are a lot more talented than the Diamondbacks and ready to compete a lot more than the Diamondbacks. Diamondbacks are still going to be a really competitive team and look to compete for the playoffs. This National League is really strong this year. And so I'm going to go Diamondbacks third, Giants fourth. They did a good job bringing in Adames. Jung Ho Lee will be healthy again, but I just don't see them being that competitive, especially after losing Blake Snell. And then the Rockies, they're lucky that the Marlins, the A's, and the White Sox exist, because if they didn't exist, this would be the worst team in baseball every season. The Rockies are dog shit, and they will not do jack shit this season. So, those are my standings predictions. AL MVP this season will be Yordan Alvarez. In the AL Cy Young, gonna miss out on Garrett Cole. A lot of potential suitors, but Jacob deGrom came back last season, and I think Jacob deGrom will make a statement. Jacob deGrom will be the AL Cy Young. That's a really bold take, I know, but he is really good. National League's so obvious, I won't even bother mentioning it. I'll give you a hint. He's a Dodgers DH. And then National League Cy Young. I don't think it's going to be Shohei. I think Shohei's just him coming back from that injury. He might start pitching again this year, but I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go Strider. Strider comes back, has a really strong season. Now coming back from Tommy John is a lot, but Spencer Strider looked really strong before Tommy John. Who's to say with his reconstructed elbow he doesn't start throwing harder and look really good for the Atlanta Braves as they look to compete with the New York Mets this season. It's going to be a hell of a baseball season. A lot of really competitive teams, a lot of young teams who could break out, some older teams on the decline, but we're going to have quite the fun baseball season this season. That's going to do it for this week's episode of the Voodoo Sports Show. Thank you for tuning in. I will see you next week where I recap some matches in baseball and continue to discuss the happenings of the sports world. Thank you for joining. Let's enjoy some baseball.